Welcome to Optily Radio, your regular 30-minute dose of everything you need to accelerate your e-commerce marketing success.
Welcome back to another episode of Optily Radio. I'm your host, Nina White. A couple episodes ago, we started to explore the world of Amazon with Tom Baker of Ford Baker. And today we're going to dive into how you can increase the likelihood that people will convert once they get to your Amazon listing. This episode will focus on ways to make sure your features and benefits stand out and how to tell your brand story in order to get people to complete their purchase on Amazon. So let's get right into things with this in-depth session on copywriting that sells. Joining us in the virtual studio is today's guest, Emma Schermer Tamir. Emma is the owner of Marketing by Emma, which she founded in 2016. It's an agency that specializes in e-commerce copywriting, especially for Amazon, but also for websites and landing pages. Emma is a third-generation creative with over 10 years of marketing experience in the US and abroad. And from the Optily team, we have Amy Coyle joining us today. Amy is our head of customer success and has 9 years in-house and agency-side experience in digital marketing and account management across a variety of sectors, including e-commerce, travel, hospitality, and event management. She's worked for some big names in Ireland, including Wolfgang Digital, Press Up Entertainment Group, and Oracle. So welcome to the show, Emma and Amy.
Hello.
How are you both doing today? Things are opening up where you are, Emma, I hope. Coming back to normal slowly?
Things are pretty much normal, at least for the time being. You know, I think we're all sort of toughened a bit over the last year and a half. So if things should go backwards, then so be it. I feel like it definitely won't hit as hard if that's the direction that they take.
Awesome. So Emma, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, how it is you got into the world of Amazon, and how it is you came to start Marketing by Emma?
Sure. So my husband is actually my business partner, and on our second date, he said, I don't know whether we're going to continue seeing each other or not, but what I can see is that you're absolutely miserable at your job, and I have a really big network, and I'd love to be able to make some introductions for you. And I was like, no, it's fine. I'm okay. That sounds embarrassing. And obviously by me calling him my husband, things did continue. And and eventually he got tired of waiting for me to agree. And I was away on a business trip doing sales and marketing for a health and wellness company. And when I'd gotten back, he had a list of people that he'd communicated with that were interested in doing business with us. So it was really his idea. He had a lot of friends that were in the e-commerce space, and they were all telling him how much they really needed strong marketing, writing service providers, and that there weren't really a lot of great options out there. And so in some ways, I feel like I was just sort of pulled into this world, and it really is its whole sort of ecosystem and universe. Like the Amazon space in particular, it's a subculture within the larger e-commerce domain, and it's really a fascinating one.
Awesome. And I must say I am a fan of a good pun, so the fact that you use Amazon across your site is definitely something that made me smile. I was like, awesome.
I can't take credit for that. That is actually, Ares is my husband / business partner's name, and that was 100% his brainchild.
Great. So I'm curious as to what your sort of process is when you land a new client for an Amazon content audit. So what are some of the things that you look for, some of the common mistakes that you see a lot with new clients who come to you with help for some of their underperforming listings?
Yeah, so I would say it really depends on the circumstances. There are sort of a few different bags that I would group people into. And so you have the people coming in that are representing larger businesses that are established in different retail channels, and that they understand the importance of Amazon in their omni-channel strategy. And so they see that as an opportunity, but they don't necessarily understand the nuances of what it takes to be successful on Amazon. So they're coming in, they have a really developed sense of brand. They know how they want to be presenting themselves, but they don't know how to marry that with all of the nuance of what you need to do on Amazon. So things like how keyword research differs, and how you put together the A+ content, which is what that little landing page like section of the description that you're able to create if you're a registered brand with Amazon. So it's more of navigating that and learning how to play the Amazon game. But then you also have a lot of businesses that they're e-commerce native, they're smaller businesses. They may still be generating pretty impressive revenue numbers, but they don't necessarily have that branding piece figured out. And so for them, it's really about figuring out how to be able to not only do all the things that I just mentioned as far as keyword research and structuring things properly, but also helping them really build out their brand identity and figuring out that differentiation piece. Because one thing that's unique about Amazon versus just having your own website is that there's no shortage of options. In fact, like, I think one of the challenges for customers is being overwhelmed by choice. Too many potential options that are there. And so it's really, really important, if you're going to be able to be successful on Amazon, to figure out how to do that differentiation piece so that you're able to give customers something to grab onto and make a decision on, rather than just presenting them with another product page that looks identical to all the other ones out there. And that's, I think, just something that any business struggles with, is figuring out that differentiation piece. I think particularly when you are a newer business, it can be scary to really kind of lean into what makes you different, because it might feel like you're limiting your reach and you're narrowing down your prospective customer pool. But it's actually through that you are able to develop stronger relationships with customers and also stand out, so that you're not just diluting yourself up against the top competitors that already have, thousands of reviews and maybe some brand recognition and some of those other things that are going to be a challenge to face off against.
It's great. Yeah, that was definitely something I especially wanted to ask you about, was those specific unique ways to stand out on Amazon if you don't have a particularly unique product. So, it's still not like, it's still an original product, but say it's something like just another piece of Tupperware. Like, how is it that you can stand out in this sea of Tupperware that is on Amazon already as a newer brand, something a little bit more generic like that?
Yeah, so I think that's where, again, this branding piece comes into play. And a lot of times younger businesses may consider branding to be your logo, your colors, more on the visual side of things. But branding is very much also something that happens through the copy and the language that you're utilizing. And so thinking about who you want to be as a business, how you want to portray yourself, and then in tandem with that, really being clear about who your customers are, and then using your product page, be that on Amazon or elsewhere, to really facilitate a conversation between those two things. So between the brand and the customer. And so in the event of Tupperware, if you just come in and say, we're the best Tupperware out there, first of all, you don't really have much substance behind that, because can you really say that you're the best Tupperware? Probably not. But also you are competing against Tupperware, which is a brand, so like that's really hard if that branded word is, I'm not sure if that's become, something that everybody can use, or if it's still protected and copyrighted. If so,
I think it is.
Yeah, so then that's going to be a challenge in and of itself. So, you're going to be having to go after keywords like food storage containers and, reusable packaging. I don't know. I would need to do some keyword research to be clear. But I would encourage you to think about, how can I get smaller? So maybe you realize that most of the reusable container companies out there are kind of targeting the mom demographic. So, take care of your whole family. And that there's a strong millennial consumer base that isn't necessarily going to relate to this, not only because of the more narrow definition of gendered roles in the household, but also because they may not be really in the point yet of having a family. And so for them, the reusable containers are more for wanting to reduce waste, or they're getting into, certain types of cooking and baking became really popular over the last year and a half. So maybe people that have become more adventurous in the kitchen, and really kind of going down that hole of getting ultra specific. And then that will inform the colors that you use. That will inform the tone that you take with your language, because it's possible that with a consumer base like that, you'd want to be a little bit tongue in cheek and a little bit witty with how you're presenting yourself, maybe even gently poking fun at how more traditional reusable container companies are going about the marketing thing. And so that's where you can really start to make a headway in things, and not just be another product that is more or less the same, and even there may be also some design choices that you've made that differentiate this based on the product itself, but that alone may not be enough to take it as far as you can and could take it. But what also happens when you invest in that branding piece is that it becomes about more than just the product. So then let's say that you want to expand your catalog, and you may be thinking in terms of food containers. So you're thinking, okay, well, we're going to be a kitchen company. But actually, if this is really about millennials and their households and being very sustainably minded, maybe you don't even go keep it in the kitchen. Maybe you realize that actually, let's make a line of reusable cleaning bottles that people can also use. And so it's more about that. So it may even open up different directions that you can take with your business, not just in the way that you market it, but actually choices that you're making with product selection and development and everything.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and kind of making it about a lifestyle rather than just a product at the end of the day.
Yeah, and there's so many great examples of brands that are doing a really effective job in that. And it's not only that they're clear about who their customers are, but they are also very clear on who their customers aren't. So a couple of examples that come to mind are Allbirds. They started off as a sustainable shoe company. Now they also make, I think, intimate wear and basic clothing items as well. But they are very clear about who they are. And they also did something incredibly interesting last Black Friday, which is rather than offer a big sale, which, by the way, they don't ever discount their products. They raised their prices by $1, and then they matched that dollar, and then they donated those $2 to a fund helping with climate change. And it wasn't so much about the increase in the price by $1 or even that contribution, but it really was actually taking an active stand against this idea of wasteful consumerism, which exactly aligns with their mission to be a sustainable brand. So they're kind of signaling to their customer base, we're not just using sustainability as a kind of buzzword to gain more business. Through and through, we are committed to this concept so much that we may even turn away the opportunity to post incredible Black Friday, Cyber Monday numbers for the sake of being able to really stand true to what we believe in. And what's so fascinating is when you look at their social media posts about that, there's some people that are disappointed and upset by that or don't get it. But then there are customers that come in and respond to those people and say, hey, you don't understand why they're doing this. And so while it may have been turning down some short-term sales, it actually only reinforced and strengthened the relationship with their core customer base in a way that those people that really have the same values now feel even, prouder and more excited to support this company moving forward.
That reminds me of the skincare brand, The Ordinary. And I think for the last 2 Black Fridays, they've shut their entire shop for, is it either the whole month of November or possibly even just that week? I'm not entirely sure, but it's like, I really resonate with that, putting your money where your mouth is as a brand and bringing that meaningfulness into the customer profile. That's really fascinating. So super interesting to hear that.
So, Emma, you've been mentioning, doing a lot of keyword research and using that to help a lot of your listings stand out. So, can you explain a bit how Amazon SEO works and what your toolkit is for doing keyword research? Because I assume it's a bit different from, your standard, Google keyword planner and that type of thing that people might be more familiar with.
Yeah, there are definitely tools that are designed specifically to give you better ideas of search volumes and search patterns for searches that are originating on Amazon. Because I think that's something that people don't necessarily think about, but Amazon is a search engine. And it's where a lot of product related searches initiate. And so you have kind of 2 general types of searches that are happening. You have the product discovery search that might be gifts for mom or baby registry ideas. And those are valuable keywords, but the buying intent is going to probably be a little bit lower because those are the words that are, the people are just collecting ideas, getting inspiration, maybe making a wish list and then coming back. So you don't want to ignore those. But then you also have the group of keywords that are much higher buying intent because those are searching for a specific problem or a specific product. So you don't always know the name of a product, right? So you might search for, treatment for calluses. So that could be a lot of different types of products, but you're probably wanting to help treat those calluses in some way. And so those are people that are probably going to be more highly motivated to make a purchase there. Or you could get even more specific and have it be foot soak to soften calluses or something. I don't know why calluses are what jumped into my mind. So apologize for that less than
summer feet.
Yeah, I suppose so. I wore high heels for the first time in a year and a half recently for a week straight, and my feet are suffering as a result of that. But so that it's important to kind of consider those 2 sort of sets. The other thing that you want to keep in mind when you're doing keyword research is that a lot of times you're going to be attracted by the highest search volume words, but those are going to be the most challenging and the most expensive to be able to make solid traction for, but they also may lack the level of relevancy that would even allow you to be successful to begin with. So like if let's say you're selling a sleeping bag for dogs. So sleeping bag is going to have really high search volume. However, most people searching sleeping bag are searching for human sleeping bags. So a very small percentage of all of those sleeping bag searches are going to truly be relevant to you. And then within that, maybe your dog sleeping bag, you actually have different sizes for different types of dogs, or maybe there's one that's meant for, taking in the car and others that are meant for at home. Dog sleeping bags are a thing, by the way. This is not just something that I pulled out of the air. And so thinking in terms of what are the keywords that can most closely describe your product is essential. And so then you really go about adding those keywords into your listing in the way that it almost forms a skeleton. So something that's there, that it's a really solid foundation, but it's also not visible to the customers. And that's where, when you asked me about common mistakes that I see, one of the most common mistakes that I see is not navigating the SEO strategy effectively, either in one extreme or the other. So really not doing any Amazon specific research and then completely lacking any keywords at all, or doing tons of research and just completely overstuffing their listing so it looks more like a string of keywords matched together than a clear description of the product. So a few different tools that I use to do keyword research are Helium 10. I also use ZonGuru. There are a few other tools that we will supplement with the keyword research, but using tools that are actually plugged into the Amazon API to be able to get that data that's specific not only to searches on Amazon, but that's even able to accommodate things like seasonality and give some additional insights into how many other products are indexed and ranked for that. So that can give you a sense of how difficult it may be to compete on a particular term. And so you need to be weighing all of those things together as you create your keyword list and then as you weave those into your copy.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super important stuff. And I was actually going to ask about something like, as someone who's never heard of a sleeping bag for dogs, if people don't know your product exists, if it's something super unique, would you recommend, getting on those lists for, presents for pets or that kind of thing so that people discover that your super unique product even exists, because they're not going to search for something they don't even know about?
Yeah, it can be difficult to build traction with a really unique invention on Amazon, because Amazon is, you have to be dependent on there being search volume for your product. So some things that you could consider when you are trying to find ways to get your product in front of other customers that don't know about it is also other functions that it could serve. So a dog sleeping bag, you could also just call that a dog blanket. And I'm sure that a lot of people are searching for dog blankets that they could put on their couch to protect the couch, or put into their kennel so that they have something soft to cuddle with. Maybe the sleeping bag also serves a purpose for helping calm the dog. So maybe it would be an alternative to things like thunder vests, which are weighted vests that you can put on dogs to help them when they're anxious and stressed, whether it's from fireworks or storms or things like that. And so if it serves that kind of function, then you could also figure out some keywords related to products to help calm dogs during thunderstorms, which sounds like a weird keyword, but I'm sure there are people searching those types of things. So needing to be a little bit more creative with how people would be searching for that product, still have high buying intent, but not necessarily starting off with a word that directly describes your product. Maybe it's even camping supplies for dogs.
I was actually going to ask, just before we move on, you touched on something really interesting there, Emma, in terms of like brand, and I suppose merging brand and like functionality in terms of keywords. Like, do you find it difficult to work with people who are very like brand focused in terms of like crafting that perfect, product description, and I suppose just kind of convincing them to be a little bit more kind of less, or a little bit less precious, I suppose is the word, in terms of like, getting those keywords in there in a natural way, but also, kind of, I suppose, in a way that's going to serve them better than sticking to their guns and on the branding side of things is going to work for them?
Actually, the opposite. So I find it much more challenging with people that are more on the analytical side and almost treat keywords as, I guess, on theme here, a security blanket. And there's this sort of feeling like if we use a little bit of brand building language, or if we have a sentence that doesn't have a keyword but is really important in order to, either explain the problem that this solves or something else like that, then there's this struggle between, no, but we need more keywords here, or, or what, I don't really care about this stuff, just more keywords. And so that's actually where I would say more of the challenge is in kind of helping people understand that they can let go a little bit, that there's more that also goes into your ability to rank an index than just using the keywords. So Amazon's algorithm is far more complex than simply seeing whether a word is in there and then saying, yes, it's indexed or no, it's not. It's factoring in lots of different things, including your overall seller account health and performance. So if a lot of people are returning your product after buying it from searching specific keywords, you're not going to rank as well, because Amazon is seeing that as an indication that there's a misalignment here. Either it's not truly a good fit, or maybe there's a quality issue or whatnot. And so even the SEO side of things is very strongly influenced by making sure that they're preserving a positive customer experience. So helping to facilitate a sale as quickly and easily as possible, but then ensuring that that sale is one that's going to stick and lead to a positive outcome for the customer. And so you really want to be thinking about everything all together, rather than just saying, okay, this word is here or it isn't, and that's all that it takes. It is far more complex than that.
Yeah, because I suppose at the end of the day, Amazon's slogan is like the world's most customer-centric company. So, of course, it makes sense that they would be looking at that. And interestingly enough, I was just talking with the team the other day, and we were kind of like, I suppose my interpretation of Amazon is kind of sometimes buy cheap, buy twice. So it's interesting to hear that is taken into account. And because I can imagine there's a lot of stuff up there sometimes that's like, it's like a couple of dollars, for example. And it's like, it's really hard to tell what the difference is in terms of, the actual quality of the product.
Well, you bring up such a important point, which is from my perspective, the sale actually doesn't happen when the initial conversion happens, because so many people are Amazon Prime members and they have the ease of returning, which sometimes, depending on the value and size of the product, you don't even actually have to return it. You just tell Amazon that you want to return it and they'll refund you. Yeah. So because it's so easy, the sale actually isn't really officially made until the customer gets that product home, opens up the box, and decides that it's the product that they want to commit to. Because they've probably had experiences in the past where something was not marketed as it truly was, or they feel too overwhelmed by the choices, so they decide that they'll just order a few and decide based upon how things look when they actually get it home. So you need to be aware of all of that when you are putting together a product listing, that you are really communicating accurately about what your product is and who it's best for, because it's only going to do you a disservice if you overhype your product or say it's really great at something that it's not. Because then all you're doing is increasing the likelihood of a return, but also a negative customer experience that could lead to a negative review. So that short-term conversion isn't actually worth the long-term impacts of making sales to people that aren't the best fit for your item.
It's a really interesting, and actually a good example of that is, I don't know if you've ever shopped on Amazon for computer cables, but I have a Thunderbolt cable that doesn't fit any of my devices, but I got the money back for it. But it's like, shopping for cables is like really impossible sometimes, because there's just obviously so many different devices out there, and it could be so much clearer, you know what I mean? It could be laid out so much better, and to the point where I would have ended up buying the right cable, but it's just, it can be so overwhelming at times.
Well, and you make a great point, which is that actually one of the things that we focus on more than anything else, particularly with the bullets, and I like to think of a product page, each section of it serves a different function. So the title is more about really kind of opening the door to your product page and welcoming people inside. So it's essentially saying, you've come to the right place. Come, take a look, learn a bit more, almost like a sign at the front of a shop would do. So once somebody gets into the product page, then the next stop, most of the time, is going to be the bullets. And so what the bullets' job is to be able to align themselves as, yes, you've clicked into the right product page, you have this key buying criteria, and we match that. And so few companies do a really good job of understanding what are just those need to know details that a customer has. And they may not be something particularly exciting, but in the case of a cable, if you don't have a clear understanding of what what devices it connects between, then that's the biggest failure that you can have. I mean, if you don't know this connects to your iPhone, and then you can plug it into, your new Apple computer that has I don't even remember the new type of USB connector.
How they change it, yeah.
Right. Then then all you're going to be is frustrated. And so in that case, you may just buy a few and hope for the best. You may kind of just go to a different product page that does a better job of explaining it. Or even though everybody loves e-commerce, you might decide, you know what? I'm going to go to the electronics store because there I can see both ends of it. I can make sure that this is actually what I want. And even though it might take me a little bit extra time, it's going to save me a lot of frustration and headache in trying to figure out and do this detective work. It shouldn't be that complicated, but...
Oh, so true. So true.
So I'm wondering, Emma, are there any things that you would put in the questions section as opposed to the description section to preempt, issues like this? Will this cable work for X? Where the seller goes and preempts customer questions by answering them themselves? Or would you try to put everything in the description?
I would try to be as forward thinking and putting it into the product page itself, putting it into the listing, but also thinking about different ways that you can present it. So if we're going back to this idea of the cable, in the bullets, clearly indicating what the two ends are, but also maybe having a picture that has clearly visible images of both ends labeled with what they are, and then maybe also a list of what the common devices that they connect between, or you could even have two separate images for that. So some of it is also understanding that different types of people are going to be more comfortable absorbing information in different ways. And so you want to make sure that regardless of what their preferred consumption mode is, that they can find that. But also, if you're on a mobile phone, then trying to read all of those bullets might feel like a bit of a headache, but having some of those infographics where they're designed well enough that the text is large enough that they can see it clearly without having to zoom in, then that makes it really easy for them to find that information and then just be able to make that purchase instead of, needing to kind of go back and forth or try to zoom in and see, like, is that truly a lightning cable, or is that actually what is the USB
C.
USB-C.
C, the USB-C.
That's some really, really great information there on all sorts of copy and style and everything. That's so fascinating. Unfortunately, we are at time. So I'd like to end on our last question that we end all of our shows with, which is, if our listeners come away with one thing from this episode that they can implement today that will help them accelerate their online businesses, what is that one thing?
I would say really thinking strategically about differentiation and what you can do to set your business apart in a meaningful way, because there are only more businesses coming online every single day. So competition is only going to increase. And so you're likely not going to be able to even rely on what might have worked a few years ago. So if you started on Amazon in 2014 or 2015, you may be sitting really comfortably with thousands of reviews on your product and doing really well, but you can't just lean back and call it a day, because there are other companies that are going to and are coming in and doing a better job. And so if you don't also figure out this differentiation piece, then eventually you are going to be losing some ground to these companies that really are committed to figuring that out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, Emma. Amy, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
This was fantastic. I love having the opportunity to speak with you both today.
I've learned so much about products that exist that I didn't know existed.
It can be pretty tough to stand out on Amazon with so many already well-established vendors dominating the listings. But with Emma's great tips, you'll have the upper hand in making your products shine. If you want to contact Emma or get a free Amazon listing analysis from her team, check out their site at marketingbyemma.com. And in 2 weeks' time, we'll have Daniel Lipinski on the show with us. Daniel is the CEO of Outfund, one of our partner companies that specializes in revenue-based financing for e-commerce companies. I'm really looking forward to exploring the world of finance with him, because it's a pretty key element when it comes to fueling any marketing campaign. And don't forget, if you're running ads on Facebook or Google and you need a way to easily optimize your ad spend across your campaigns, make your life easier and try out Optily. It's free for 14 days. Stay safe, and we'll catch you back here next time on Optily Radio.